Warning: the five may contain discussions on topics such as death, suicide, rape, addiction, and abuse. Although these topics are approached in a therapeutic manner, they still may have triggering effects on some individuals. Viewer discretion is advised.
Human beings are crafted through experience. Each person, from the closest of friend to the most random of stranger, has a unique story crafted by the ultimate experience that we call life. Welcome to the five. The same five questions, a completely different experience every time.
All right, well, we're back with a very special episode. I have known today's guest for about 9 years now, as you heard before. And I don't know if we want to go through it again, but we met at a burlesque show. And this little special episode, we will get into the person who I know to be the guy with the crazy stories. All the craziest stories that I know come from none other than our great host of the five, Brad. Take it away.
I will say I probably do have some weird stories and everything, and it's kind of one of the things that sparked me wanting to do the five is because I love to hear people's stories. It's kind of one of the things that me and my friend group share a lot and everything, and everybody's always like, you have some really weird stories, and I am going to share them. I'm kind of worried about some of them, actually, because I think there's some stuff that I'm going to unpack tonight that I've not unpacked. So I've kind of been dreading this, but I think it's also going to be therapeutic. Is the whole reason I made this. And so I wanted you to be the person that asked me the questions. So most of you guys know me as Handlebar ASMR. My name's Brad. I've worked in environmental remediation. So I take places that's been destroyed and everything like that and make them into parks or make them to where people can use them again. I've done a lot of things in my life. I kind of am a collector of experiences and everything like that. So every so many years I reinvent myself, and so now I'm in IT and cybersecurity, but I still do the environmental remediation. But I'm also that type of person that's not the person, my job doesn't define me. I always just tell people that I'm just a nerdy guy, which I am. I am that hopeless nerd that loves comic books and loves fantasy and loves cartoons and anime and now dresses up. I've been a cosplay model. I've been a little bit of everything. And so I think I'm going to share some of those stories with you tonight.
I'm excited and looking forward to it.
You've heard all these stories, so you cannot be judgmental.
All right. Do you want to just hop into it? And I think we'll start with what is the scariest thing that's ever happened to you?
The scariest thing that ever happened to me was I had a stalker event that ended with me being technically murdered. I had to be resuscitated, and unfortunately, due to legal circumstances, the person's still being out there. It is not the story I'm going to tell tonight. I can only kind of tell that to very personal friends just because there is some legal issues with it and everything. But I'm going to tell you about another very scary event that happened to me. I was in college and I was home visiting my parents, and there was a tree that had fallen over. My dad's a farmer. We live in the South, very country if you couldn't tell. And my dad's an old farmer, and he said, hey, I need you to help me roll a tree off of one of my fences. It's like a tree fell on the fence, and I was like, sure. So I remember going out with my dad, and there's this tree that's laying there, and I bend down, I start to roll this tree off of this fence, and then I hear this sound that sounds just like somebody hitting a softball. And I stand up and I turn around and I look at my dad, and it literally looks like a cartoon. Like I see the blood just start draining from him. like the color just goes down and he just turns this deathly white. And I literally thought, my dad's having a heart attack or something, and I was like, are you okay? And he just kind of stood there and looked at me and he goes, are you okay? And I said, I feel really, really weird. And he goes, we need to go to the hospital right now. And he goes, I've got to go get the keys to the truck. He said, go get in the truck and don't look in the mirror. And I started to kind of, freak out internally because I'm like, oh, I'm the one that's hurt. I was like, and when I done that, I had a red sweatshirt on. I remember that. And when I pull my hand back, it's just covered in blood, just covered. I couldn't really see it. And so I go, and if my dad is like a person, he does not like say anything he does not mean. So when he says, don't look in the mirror, like I knew, don't look in the mirror. So I'm sitting in this truck and I'm just like, I don't know what's wrong. I feel really weird. Like my head feels funny and everything like that. And my dad, he comes back. He's very upset. He calls my family doctor, and he's talking to my family doctor, and he says, hey, Brad was in an accident, and I need to bring him into the hospital. And he goes, would it be faster if we brought him to you, and then you guys kind of work him in, or should I go straight to the emergency room and try that? And my family doctor said, hey, bring him here. We can kind of administer, some first aid and everything like that, depending on how it is. And then we'll go ahead and get everything started, and we can transfer him right over into the, the hospital if that's what he needs. So when we get to my family doctor, I've had the same nurse since I was like, 10 years old at this point and everything. And she starts to cry when she sees me. And so I have this just literal feeling of dread in my body. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I feel like I'm in a bad movie. I feel like I don't know what's going on, but it's horrible. And if I'm making people cry just from them looking at me, it's going to be something that's permanent. And I remember them laying me back, and they start picking tree bark out of my face. I still remember them pulling it out, and I was like, that's tree bark. And so what had happened was, underneath that tree that had fallen on my dad's fence was a dogwood sapling that had, this tree fell down on top of it and broke the top of it off, but it had pinned it down. So when I released that tree, it came up just like a catapult, caught me, and the top of it had been broken off, so it was jagged, and it ripped my nose off. So my nose was just literally hanging on the side of my face. And I remember kind of seeing that a little bit, but my eyes were blurry. Like, I had tears in my eyes for like, it seemed like hours, and everything. But it literally ripped my nose, just like, it was just hanging halfway on and everything like that. And of course my dad's mortified because he has almost killed I've got two sisters, and he's almost killed each of us in a horrible accident. So this was just my turn. And so they basically put my nose back over, and they're like, hey, it's got to heal before we can really do anything with this. And so, I had this, and when I finally got to take the bandages off of it, it looked absolutely awful. There was like a huge crater where it had sunk in right there. I ended up having to have plastic surgery on it. And of course, that was mortifying for my dad. And I still remember like the final part of it, they done like, like surgery on it and everything. And I still had this scar from where it had sunk in, and it was just kind of unlevel right there. And I had to go in, and I swear they used the Dremel tool on it. Like, it was, the nurse put me in this chair, and they put this like little band around my head, and she literally also held on to me while the doctor had something that looked like a Dremel tool, and he sanded down this scar on the side of my nose. And I remember every rotation throwing blood on his white coat and smelling what burnt flesh smells like. You know, you always see it in a movie, and they're like, the smell of burnt flesh is, yeah, it's something you don't forget. And after that, I literally had, you could see the blood vessels in my nose because they had to sand it down to the last layer of skin to get rid of the scar. And I couldn't put anything on it because that would make it scar again because the skin was just like tissue paper. And I had to walk around like that and let that heal. And my poor dad, for the long, the whole time it's healing and everything, every time he would see me, he would just say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I was like, oh, it's okay. But I couldn't like freak out about it, even though I internally was very much freaking out about the whole situation, because I was like, I can't scare my dad and I can't make him feel any more guilty than he already feels. So I really thought, I think the big thing was I've always had like weird like I'm very self-conscious about things, and I've kind of got like poor body image and poor self-esteem, I'm much better now than I was when I was in college. And so I thought, I'm already a mess and ugly, and on top of this, and now I'm going to have like a crater in my face, and stuff. And so I just thought, wow, this really sucks. This is really, really just scary, because this is going to probably change my life forever. And now most people can't even tell that it happened. So that was my scariest story, besides being murdered, which I can't tell you. But you've heard that story, and I have many people that can back me up that really happened. The real story sounds like a movie, and it was awful. It was a horrible 2 years, and yeah, that's definitely a trauma bond when I share that with you.
I've heard that story before, and I remember when I first heard that story, I thought at that time, you can't tell. Like, you can't tell at all that you are a person who once had their nose ripped off.
I had a very good plastic surgeon. Thank you. I don't remember your name, but you were amazing.
Well, with that, let's go with what is the weirdest thing that's ever happened to you?
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and admit that I changed weirdest, which used to be the first question that was asked, to the second question that was asked, just because I knew one day I would have to tell this story, and I'm going to lose all credibility by telling this story, because I still don't understand it, and I've tried to understand it my whole life, and I feel like one of those weird people that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, he's one of those weird people. So here we go.
All right.
One of my best friends that I grew up with is the friend that, like, you're born and you just grow up together. He just lived right down the road and everything like that. We grew up together, and when he finally was able to drive, a lot of times he would come over, he would pick me up, take me over to his house. We would watch movies until like 2 or 3 in the morning. He would bring me back. And then when I was able to drive, we still done the same thing. I'd go pick him up and bring him over to my place sometimes, or my parents' place. This is when I was in high school still. So I'm probably like 17 when this happens. And so, one night he comes, he picks me up, takes me over. We watch movies until probably like 2:30 or something like that. And he's driving me back to my parents' place. Well, I live in the middle of nowhere. Like, I literally have like the scary yellow bridge that, like, from Evil Dead, that you cross when you're coming to where I live. Because I don't live very far from where my parents are. I want to kind of stick around and, be around my family and everything, a Southern thing. But so I'm not too far from where my parents originally lived. So I still live out in the middle of nowhere. But it's got the scary little bridge. And I always tell people, like, when you're coming over to my place, when you get to the scary little yellow bridge, you're almost there. When you're like, where the F am I? I'm in the middle of nowhere. You're almost there. So this is in the middle of nowhere. And my parents had like a really long driveway up to the house. So my buddy was never the best driver. And he never would slow down when he would take a turn. Like, so it was just habit that I would always stick my hand down and grab like the door handle or something like that to kind of hold on to for when he like takes a turn at like 70 miles per hour into a driveway. So we come speeding up and he just stops right in the middle of the road, right in front of my parents' driveway. And I'm kind of like, just, you know, it's like 2:30 in the morning. I'm not even like looking at the road. I'm just got like holding this. And he goes, "What the fuck is that?" And like, I just looked up, and in the headlights is this thing. This is where I'm about to lose you. I know I'm about to lose you. There is this thing. It looks like a tall man thing, because I'm not saying it looked exactly like a man. It was covered in hair. It had very long fingers. Like if you've ever seen the movie Nosferatu, it had these really long looking fingers. And it was really thin. It looked kind of like emaciated, but like when I say covered in hair, it has more hair than I do. And that's a lot of hair. Like it's covered from top to bottom in hair. And I believe is naked because that's all I see is hair. And its face is all smashed in. And it's standing there kind of sideways in the road in the headlights. And I'm telling you, the back of its legs look like a dog's leg. They're like crooked. Like, you know how a dog's leg kind of comes up and it's like crooked and it goes like that? That's the way it's standing there. And it just turns and it looks right into the car and then bolts and just takes off running up. Like there's a fence that goes up along my parents' house, and it just bolts in that direction and runs off toward my parents' house. And my friend just wheels into the driveway, and he shoots up the driveway like literally he went from the bottom of Parents' driveway. We're doing like 90 by the time we get to the top of it. It's a long gravel driveway, and it's not a driveway you should really be doing 90 on. But like, and we don't even say a word. I jump out of the car. He is right behind me. And I'm like running up and I'm like trying to put the key in the door, and like my hand's shaking. And it's stupid because it's like you see it in the movies and you're like, oh my gosh, that's not how. And I'm really having a hard time getting this key in the door. And he's like, hurry, 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 hurry. And when we get in the house, we lock the door. And he was like, I am not leaving this house. And I was like, I don't blame you. I don't know what that was, and everything. And so we kind of just sat around and didn't talk about it a lot, but kind of talked about it. I was like, what was it? Was that like a hairy man or was it? And he's like, I don't know. I don't know what that was. And so we finally go to sleep and everything. We wake up the next day. I go in, my dad is in cooking breakfast and everything like that. And again, he's an old farmer, does not bullshit very much. He watches the news, Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, and baseball. That's it. There's nothing else. I said, hey, Dad, I think I saw a werewolf last night. And my dad says, what's a werewolf? And I was like, it's like a man who turns into a wolf at the full moon. And he looks at me so disappointed. He just gives me this look like, oh, I'd hoped you would be a farmer one day, and you're definitely not going to be that. And you're just also crazy. He just gives me that look. And he said, it's probably that wolf boy down the road. And I was like, wolf boy down the road? And he goes, yeah, their last name is Wolf. And they live like probably about like 2 miles down the road. He goes, every so often he gets drunk and they will just find him laying naked in the woods. And I'm like, is it on a full moon? Because that's what a werewolf does. I was like, I think he's a werewolf. His last name is Wolf, So, of course, my dad, that's all he had to say on it. He was like, well, go play your video games, have fun. You're weird. I support you, but kind of ashamed. So like later, I'm actually like that same week, I'm over at like my friend's house and everything, and I'm telling him the story about it. And his dad comes walking in about the time, I'm talking like explaining what it looked like. And he goes, I saw that. And I was like, what? And he goes, he goes, so I do a lot of bass fishing, and we actually launch our boat down. It's really close to where your parents live. He goes, there's like this like little out of the way like boat ramp that we go to, and we usually launch out of there because you live in this cove that's really good for bass fishing and everything. And he said, we brought the boat up one night. It was me and one of my buddies. And he says, we're getting the boat up on the ramp and everything like that, getting it, secured. And he said, this big, hairy, and I'm not going to say what he said because it was like super offensive. Like he said, this big, hairy something come out of the woods and was just standing there and was like naked. And he goes, it really freaked us out because it was just standing there watching us like at the corner of the woods. And like, so this place is a big gravel parking lot and it's surrounded by woods. So there is like, some distance between that and the woods. But he was like, yeah, it just like really freaked us out. Didn't know what was going on. We had just got the boat up there and secured. So we just jump in the truck and we leave. And so I'm like, oh, wow. So that's creepy that somebody else has also seen this thing. And so like probably like a year later, I used to help instruct martial arts, and I took martial arts for like a number of years. And one of the things we used to do is like after class, sometimes we'd all just kind of like lay around on the mat and talk, with the people in the class and stuff like that. And so one of the females that was in the class, she actually said, let's talk about like weird stuff. Like, what's the scariest thing you've ever seen? And I'm like, oh, it's definitely this. And I tell this same story. And she's like, they had a manhunt for that thing one time. And she's like, I'm actually from the county that, you're from and everything like that. And she's like, there was like one time this preacher, he come out, this thing is killing one of his dogs. He shoots at it. And then they actually kind of like formed up like a thing because they didn't know what it was and everything. And she even brought me in like a newspaper article that she printed out where she had found it and everything. So I was like, wow, okay, that is actually even more creepy because like I'm definitely not the only person that's seen this thing at this time. So I'm like, I don't want to say it's real because it's like I've seen a cryptid like Bigfoot or like the Mothman, and I love reading about that stuff, and I always think they saw this or they saw that, and you want to rationalize it. But like now I can literally, even now, sometimes I'll go outside, I'll be getting something like out of my garage or something like that, and I'll walk out and the hair on my arms will just stand up, and like I'll run back to the house like a little kid, scared, because there's this reality switch in me that's been like switched on, and I'm like, okay, I saw something. I don't want to admit that it's like something out of the ordinary. I want a rational explanation, but I've still never came up with a rational explanation for this thing. I don't think it was a werewolf, but that's what it looks like. So I call it my werewolf story. But I think my weirdest thing is that I've seen a cryptid and I can't explain it. And I'm a rational human being that would really, really love to explain this.
Okay. Yep.
And that's why I didn't lead with this story, because I know everybody that's watching this is like, that is bullshit. And I have to say, if I was listening to it, I'd be like, the cool story, bro. You're a really good storyteller. But like, I'm going to tell you right now, I still am scared to like walk around the woods by myself, and everything, because I'm like, maybe he's still out there.
All right. Well, heard it here first. Werewolves are real. Got it.
Sorry, guys.
Okay. Well, I guess that leads us to the next question, which is, what has been the most memorable moment of your life so far?
Okay. This one's going to be kind of weird, too. I'm a weird person, so every story's probably going to be weird.
If it doesn't involve a cryptid, it'll be more interesting.
This one is interesting because I am, like I said, I'm a collector of experiences. Like, I will go out of my way to experience something. And I've been very lucky in life. And I think part of it's just because I'm so open to like saying yes and doing weird things and like not being afraid to try new stuff. I've been a cosplay model, which actually led me to where I've had dinner with like part of the cast of Game of Thrones. I've sat and ate cookies and had tea with the original Boba Fett and his wife. I've been on television. I'm doing the Instagram thing now, which honestly turned out, that's still weird to me to be on there and be doing that. Traveled around as a cosplay person, been a scientist, been a little bit of everything. So it's kind of like I said, I want to experience things. Like right now I'm going through whitewater raft guide training, and everybody thinks I'm really crazy for doing that right now. But I'm like, I want to add that to my little Rolodex of, you're a whitewater raft guide. I've actually been in a French, I've been in a French English textbook as one of the little models that was part of like when they done a makeup type thing, and it's like, I'm not like bragging about any of that. It's just, that's like the experiences that I want to collect. And I want all the experiences I can have in life. And so it's really weird because the experience is probably what I'm going to say is the most memorable experience of my life, is something that is so small that it shouldn't register on anybody's radar. But I'm going to explain why it was so important to me, I guess. In high school, I was the nice guy. I was the quiet guy. I was the nerdy guy. I was friends with about everybody, but like super low self-esteem, like I was saying. Just never wanted to be on anybody's radar. I always wanted to be that guy that was like in the background, never in the forefront. Everybody kind of like knew who I was, but there was not a lot of people who knew me because I was just so quiet and I didn't want to ever be noticed. I wanted to blend in completely. And so I have some really good friends and everything like that. And I'm not even sure why we done this. I think it's like one of the first times where I let one of my little weird things, like I'm always thinking weird things. I'm always doing weird things. And I think it's one of the first times I kind of let like one of my little weird things slip. And I invented some club, which was like a bullshit club because it was literally like we're sitting around and we're talking, and somehow I'm like, I invented something called the Turtle Club. And so the only thing you had to do if you were in the turtle club was you just had to say, if somebody said, "Hey, are you in the turtle club?" You had to say, "You bet your sweet ass I am." And that's the only thing. Turtle Club didn't do anything other than that. And I just done it with my friends. And so basically we started doing it as like, it's kind of like a dare. Like you would wait until one of your friends was like standing beside a teacher or something like that. And you would say, "Hey, are you a member of the Turtle Club?" And they had to say, "You bet your sweet ass I am." Well, it's weird how like little weird things like that can catch on, because at one point we even asked one of the teachers, "Hey," he was like the cool Spanish teacher, and we're like, "Hey, are you a member of the Turtle Club?" And he's like, "You bet your sweet ass I am. And so everybody in the school starts doing it, because I went to a small school. We're talking like, my class may have had like 100 people in it or something like that. Uh, so a small school, so stuff like that gets around and everything. And they actually had picture day for like the clubs to go into the year's annual. And so I go to the secretary and I'm like, "The Turtle Club needs to get set up for their picture." And the secretary's like, "Okay, Turtle Club. And there's so many clubs, when you're in high school. I'm sure the secretary was like, "They probably take care of turtles or something." I don't know. So that day, I still remember I'm in the cafeteria eating lunch, everything like that. I'm still that quiet guy, I'm there with my friends and everything like that. And earlier in the day, they come over on the intercom and they're like, "Turtle Club will be having its pictures at 12:30 today in front of the cafeteria." And there was people, like I'm walking through the hall at that point and you can hear people say, "Bet your sweet ass I'll be there," and stuff like that. And so I'm sitting in the cafeteria. It's getting on like, lunch is just about over and everything. So this is right after lunch is when we're supposed to get our picture. And so I walk out of the cafeteria, the quiet guy that wants to completely not be seen, and there's almost the entire school standing in front of this thing, and they all cheer when I come out. And they had made a sign that said the Turtle Club, and we went up and they were like, "This is the president of the Turtle Club. He needs to stand here." And the photographer took our pictures, which then the principal was going to use it to suspend a bunch of us because he got word of what it was, and he literally done the Ferris Bueller thing and was like, "I will get you for this." Like he took it as like a personal offense that I had this picture made, and I got in some pretty good trouble for it, and everything. And he did at like that was probably when I was like a junior, and he made my senior year kind of a living hell. Like at every moment he got to get me in trouble. And he actually brought my dad in and was like, "He used to be such a good boy," and everything, because the thing that I learned, and the reason that's probably the most memorable moment of my life, isn't because I had all these people like cheer for me. It was the first time I like done something that was me, like the weird side of me that I didn't ever want anybody to see. And all of a sudden it was like embraced, and it became like a thing, and it was super weird. Like there's nothing to that, but like it was something that like I let slip, and I thought, "Oh, that's gonna be something," and people were okay with it. And then something just literally clicked in my head, and I was like, "You know what? I don't care what people think anymore." I was like, "I done this, and that was me, and they were okay with it. And then if they're not okay with it, I'm okay with that too. Like, I don't want to be the guy that's sitting in the background anymore. I don't want to be the guy that's like, nobody sees anymore, because that's not who the person I am. I'm the weird guy with the handlebar mustache that you're talking to right now. And I always have been, but I thought I wanted to be something else. And it was strangely the day that set me on another path completely that made me start being the weird, nerdy person that I'm very, very proud to be today. And it really did get me into a lot of trouble. And it's true, the principal was right. I used to be such a good boy, and I was not. I never done anything wrong, but I always had a weird sense of what was funny and what was fun. And it's never anything mean, but I always done weird stuff, like I cut down an interstate sign for one of my friend's birthdays. And you would not believe how giant an interstate sign is when you're actually out there sawing it down. So I got arrested, at a indoor soccer game in high school, and, my dad just thought, what is going on? He used to be such a good boy, and I was, and I still was. I was still, me, the nice guy that wants to be nice and have all the friends and everything. But I was also like, I'm not that person that just wants to be a background character anymore. I want to be the main character of my own story. So that's a very small moment, like a minimal thing that happened, but like I have to say it's probably the most memorable moment of my life.
It's like the stone that caused all the ripples, right? That set you on your path.
After that day, I literally changed, and it was like, and I just thought to myself, I was like, you do your own thing. Just do your own thing in life, and, you're going to end up finding people that are okay with that. And those are the people you want to be with. You don't have to be the background character that everybody's okay with. Find like the few people that actually like what you do and who you are, and the rest of all those people don't really matter. Just be true to yourself. So that was the most memorable moment of my life, making the Turtle Club.
Turtle Club.
You bet your sweet ass.
I'm now worried at the number of tattoos that are going to get sent that are just turtles that say "you bet your sweet ass." Because I want one now. Turtle Club forever. That was a good story. I had not heard that one. That one was new to me. All right. Well, with that little nice, happy moment, I guess now we need to segue to what is the saddest thing that's ever happened to you?
I've been dreading this one. Oh, God. This is not good when I'm starting out like this. When I made this, I knew one day I was going to have to do this. And, I know I'm about to unpack some things I've not unpacked. Not really. So bear with me. It may take me a little bit because, like, I'm already messed up. So I apologize to everybody in advance.
We're all here for you, and you take all the time you need, buddy.
I want to start with, I had an amazing mother. When she had me, I was a mistake in life, I believe. My dad was like 41 when he had me, and my mom, I think, was like 37. So, I went through life with like, kind of like, people would be like, oh, is that your grandson? And my dad would be like, that's the grandest son I have, So I kind of had older parents and everything, but, that's not old. But what happened was probably the year after I was born, and the first memory I have, my mom, I didn't know what it was. uh, we were in a Kmart, and my mom fell down in the Kmart, like in the floor, and I had to go get help for her. And so, I'm just a little kid. I mean, this is literally, I think, the first memory that I have, just because it was like so weird and everything. But she got Parkinson's disease, and not a lot was known about it at that time. And so, my dad tells the story. He's like, we went to see the doctor, and he's like, he diagnosed her with Parkinson's disease, which she was like 38 at the time. And so it's like, or 39 at the time. And that's very young to get Parkinson's disease. And so my dad asked the question. He said, "Is this going to kill her?" And the doctor said, "No, but it'll make you wish you probably had died." And so not long after that, my mom lost the ability to walk. And she was very proud. My dad carried her on his hip for a really long time, so nobody knew that she couldn't walk. And so, that's what I grew up with. My mom, she had that, and she never let it get her down. She always was like, I never heard her complain one time her entire life about it, or say why me or anything like that. And she was just a really good mom. She did everything she could. So, and I had her for a long time because my dad took such good care of her, because my dad loved her so much. And so even the doctor said, "We've not seen anybody live this long with Parkinson's disease," and they were like, "It's 100% the level of care she's getting and everything." And so, it's been about 5 years now, so I had her for a really long time, and the funny thing was, she used to be scared of everything before she had Parkinson's disease. She wouldn't like get in the ocean or anything like that. And then after she got it, like where she couldn't walk, she was in a wheelchair, and she would like let us take her in like these wheelchairs that have like floaty wheels, and like be in the ocean completely defenseless, because like she lived what she could to the best of her ability. So, she was always like a very inspiration on that. And then the horrible thing about Parkinson's disease is you're trapped in a body that doesn't work, and eventually it attacks your mind. And so, it was like we start watching her diminish and everything, and the medicine that you're put on is horrible. It gives you hallucinations. She would like see snakes and everything, and there's so many times I'd be like, there's nothing there, and she's just terrified. And so, it was like we always had these milestones, like when things would just kind of get worse, but as I have a very close-knit family and stuff like that. But 5 years ago, she ate like some pot roast, and her esophagus was loose because of how this disease affected her, and everything like that. And she would actually have to get her esophagus stretched sometimes and everything. Well, and it had happened before, and so, we go to the doctor and everything like that, and, I think it's going to be something routine again and stuff. And so, like, she gets what's called thrush, I believe, which is like, it's something in your esophagus. And like before I knew what was going on, like, the doctor's coming in, and he's like, "We're going to have to put her," it's like she's not doing well. at that time, and we're like, oh, but there had been numerous times where we had bad diagnosis, and she had pulled through and stuff like that. So I remember being at work and just like a couple of days later, it seems like everything went so fast. This was right around, it was right around Thanksgiving, actually, in November. And I remember being at work and my dad calls and he's like, we're going to put your mom in hospice, And I'm shocked, I remember actually it was like at lunchtime, and I have like two friends that I would sit with at lunch, and one's name's Marcia. And if you watch this, Marcia, I will do anything in the world for you because of what you done, which is I walked in and I said, my mom's gonna die, and she just stood up and gave me a hug. It was like, I'm so sorry, Um, and that, it hit me that it was real. Like, I literally got off the phone with my dad and walked in there, and when I said it, that was like real. But I'm also that person that doesn't give up. And, they were like, part of what's going on is she just can't keep water down. She's dehydrated, and stuff like that. And so I'm like formulating a plan. I'm like, we're going to beat it. You don't give up. So I literally stop by like Sonic Drive-In and I buy a giant bag of pellet ice. So I'm like, I'm going to feed her pellet ice. If she can't drink water, I'll just feed her like a pellet ice until, we get through this and stuff. And, I get home to my dad's house. I've moved out by this time, and everything. And I get to my dad's house and they've set up, the bed in the living room. And my sister was in from North Carolina. My other sister was there. And my little niece was in. She got like a gingerbread house thing, and she's in there like putting it together and stuff like that in the kitchen, and my dad's there and he's super upset, and everything. And my sister just from North Carolina just came in that day. When they released her, she come in and she was gonna help and everything like that. And like the minute like we were all together, I think my mom knew it. And she just started breathing, like taking a shorter and shorter breath. Like she would breathe and then there would be like this pause in between each breath. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like you literally just got put into hospice, It's like, this can't be happening right now. But it was, and we all knew it. And we just all got around her. And I was laying across her legs. I was literally had my head laying on her legs. And she would take a breath, and then there would be like a longer and longer time. And it was like, literally, like you're holding your own breath while this is going on, because you're like, oh my gosh, this can't be happening, And then, like, I was laying on her, and I felt her die. I literally felt my mom die. I felt the life leave her. And that's the hardest moment of my life. We were very, very close knit and everything, and we still are. Like, I moved back with my dad for like a year after it happened, just because I didn't want him to be alone. But it was weird because, like, when that stuff happens, you don't know. It's never you don't know what's gonna happen. It was just weird calling somebody to let them know that she had passed away, and the funeral home coming and picking her up and going to the everything. Just really weird, very surreal, very hard. And after that, you regret any other little thing that you've ever done that you didn't live up to them or something, like these crazy regrets that you never done. And, I still remember, like, after it was all over and everything, like, I just wanted to drive up and, see the grave and everything. And I felt like an orphan. Weird. An old orphan, but an orphan, I still have my dad, but it's a weird feeling, like when a parent passes away and everything. And I know there's so many people out there that's been through it and everything. And, I was super close, but, part of it too is, it just seems so unfair too, because she had such a rough life. So it added this extra layer of everything on, of regrets and everything. So I love you, Mom. That was the hardest moment of my life, was literally feeling my mom die while I'm touching her. So
That's really rough, buddy. I'm so sorry that happened. I know how close you are with your family, and I know how much your mom meant to you, and how much your dad still means to you, and how much your mom still means to you. And that is just, it's not fair, right? It's not. There's nothing anyone can do, and it's just, but I would say you can't let those regrets sit with you. I promise you, those live in your mind, and they never once crossed your mom's, right? Your mom loved you so much, and that's just you beating yourself up, and you got to let that go, because
yeah, some of them aren't even realistic. It's like my mom, she was one of those people. She always wanted to be moving, always wanted to be going somewhere, so like I would come home from work, like, a long day at work, and I live like an hour from the nearest big city, and everything. And she's like, can we go to JCPenney, and taking somebody shopping is like actually torture to me anyway, and I would do it from time to time and everything. But, it's like, it's weird because you're like, I should have taken her to JCPenney every time she asked to go to JCPenney, and everything. And you just have these little weird regrets when there's no chance to go back. So if you still got your parents, tell them you love them, show them you love them, and try to go out with as little regrets as possible on that. So
I love you, buddy, and
I love you too.
I have no doubt that your mom was just so grateful for everything that you did. So, because I know you, and I know how you are with your dad, and I know you were probably doubly so with your mom, and that is, you're an amazing son. So, coming from a somewhat adoptive father, I would say, you're an amazing son.
I appreciate that.
I know your parents are very proud of you.
They wouldn't if they looked at Instagram, but
well, I mean, they don't have to be proud of everything, I guess.
That's true.
All right. Well, I guess with that brings us to our last question. So, based on your life experiences, what advice do you have for everyone out there?
This one, actually, again, it comes from the experience, with my mom and everything like that. And she taught me probably the most valuable thing in life is that you've got to live every day like it's the last. And you hear that all the time, but you have to do it. because my mom was 37 years old and got a disease that took away her ability to walk, took away all the freedoms that she had in the blink of an eye, and it's like we as humans, we always plan for the future. We're always like, when the time is right, I'll do this, or when I'm retired, I'll do this, or when I feel like I'm ready for this, I'm going to do it. And then time slips by and you don't. And so you have to live your life like it is every day is the last day, because it could be. Literally, you can drive out and get hit by a car immediately. Something can happen to you. You can get sick, and all those dreams of walking up the steps at like some ancient temple is gone, or traveling across the world, they're gone. Not too long ago, I was like, I'm going to go to London just on a whim sort of thing. And, I may be almost too spontaneous just because of this to a point, because like I will literally, if I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go to London, like I'm buying a ticket in like the next hour before I can talk myself out of it and everything. And so I tell my dad, I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to go to London like for a couple of weeks, like in a week, and my dad's like, how long have you been planning this, and I'm like, I decided an hour ago. I've got a ticket for like next week, and my dad, he loves me. Your dad, he loves me and everything. And he's like, oh, this has been like a few years, because it was like before COVID, like maybe a year before COVID and everything. And he at that time, people were like just throwing acid on each other over there and everything. And he goes, oh, it's not a good time to go. He's like, you need to wait. You need to wait until some other things going through, and there'll be a better time to go. And I said, Dad, how many things did you and Mom wait on, and then you never got to do them because of what all happened? And my dad, he's like, I love you, so I'm always gonna be worried about you. But you're right. He's like, you've got to live your life. You do what you want to do, and you always have. So I'm not gonna change that anyway. But you do what you want to do, and have fun, and try to be as safe as possible. And that is like this lesson I try to tell people. It's like, yeah, I'm going out and whitewater raft guiding on the weekends because I want to do it, and because it's an experience, and I've already got rolled off of a waterfall, and I'm coming home with bruises and cuts, and everybody's looking at me and they're like, you're crazy. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm having fun. I'm doing what I want to do. And it's something that I've wanted to do in the past and I never done. And it's never too late to do stuff as long as you can. But sometimes life throws in curveballs and you are no longer to do the things you want to do. So when you can do them, you do them. Just do them. That's my number one lesson of life. That's the number one piece of advice that I can do is go out there and live your fucking life every day like it's the last one. Do what you want to do. If you're in a bad relationship, get out of that bad relationship and find you a better relationship, or get really comfortable with being on your own. Life is way, way too short to be unhappy. Life is way, way too short to want to do things and you not do them. There's times where it's not always you're not financially able to do it or something like that, and you can wish for things, but like if you have the ability to do it and the only thing that's stopping you is you, fuck you. Go out and do it. Like, do it. Literally, you're your own worst enemy a lot of times. You're the number one person to say no to things. Stop saying no. If you want to do it, if it's in your heart, go do it. Even if everybody else thinks you're crazy. Just go and live your life to the fullest that you can, because at the end of the day, I want to leave this life with as few regrets as I can. And I have never regretted trying something. I've always regretted the things that I've let pass by that I didn't try, and at least know how it worked out. All those bad tries, they're just lessons, and the next time I'm better at it. So that's my number one advice. My number two advice is nothing worthwhile is ever easy, and that includes life. So it's not going to be easy, all these choices and everything like that, but man, you got to do it. You got this one life. You need to go out there and live it to the best of your ability. Surround yourself with amazing friends like I've got, like this one right here. And that right there is already going to make you have an more amazing life. And it's also going to put you in a better place to say yes to doing the things that you want to do. So go out and do it.
I think that is fantastic advice. I honestly think that's advice, as you were saying it, that's advice I think I needed to hear. So, because I am, as you know, the person who is typically the one going, oh, wait, but that could hurt, you could. And so, and I probably do need to take a little dash of the Brad, just do it lifestyle and enjoy life more, I guess. So, but yeah, so I think that is some wonderful advice for people out there is don't sit and wait. Yeah, just you need to do what you can do today because you might not get to tomorrow.
There is no promise. The future is a construct of the mind.
Oh, that's very true, though.
Well, thank you. I want to say thank you for being the host. I put you in a really weird position after I've done this like 20-something times. And then I'm like, hey, step in and host for me because I feel comfortable talking to you, and I don't know if I could have done it with many other people. So I appreciate you so much for stepping in and being there on the other side of the screen for me for this.
I'm happy to do it. I'm here for you for whatever you need, so.
You always have, man.
Always will be.
I love you, buddy.
Love you too.
I want to thank you all for listening today. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review. Also, check out the video podcast at Handlebar ASMR on YouTube for extras.